Hey guys, welcome back to Tower of God New World. In today's video, we're going to go through my top 3 carries. We're also going to go into some honorable mentions as well. So these are characters that you're going to have in the primary spot on your wish list to get the most dupes of them. And if you have a power leveled slot in your Shinsu link, kind of like I do here over on this one, that character is going to go there. And basically their role is to carry your team through campaign to victory, while the rest of the team is there more just to support that character and get you through the day. So this one's going to be interesting. Obviously, everything is subjective. This is my personal opinion. If you do have different opinions, please let me know in the comments. As always, I'm always curious to see, but I'm pretty happy with my recommendations in this one from my experience. Now, we are going to be looking at it based on sort of like my experience from like chapter 13 onwards. Now, yes, some characters are better in like the first 8 to 10 chapters, but you don't spend too long in that phase of the game. And as we move forward further, obviously the investment you make early on, you want it to carry you into later into the game. I'm currently at 16-24. We're working on 2 team fights and stuff like that, and I'm pretty happy with these recommendations based on that. First of all, let's go into some honorable mentions. Now, honorable mentions I want to mention are the SSR plus units, being Big Mashini, Karaka to some extent, but the others more so, Evan Kell, and also Data Mashini. I believe if they fix... I still believe Zahard's bugged. I could be wrong, but he just does no damage, which I don't even get. But those units, especially the 2 Mashinis and Kell, and to some extent Karaka, if you have them at 3-star, at 3 green star or higher, then at this stage, I've even seen people pushing 3x plus deficits in chapter 16 using those as one of their carries. So if you do just get that RNG where you get the dupes of those SSR pluses, they are fantastic. However, without dupes, they can't be a carry DPS at this stage of the game. They need those dupes. However, pre-chapter 9, about like chapter 1 to 9, if you have a Karaka and Evan Kell, I haven't tested Data Mashini, Big Mashini in that stage, but if you have one of these 2, they can definitely carry your damage up to about chapter 9 at 1 copy. But past that, you really need 3 dupes for these guys, especially Kell and the 2 Mashinis, to carry some damage once we get to these later chapters. So if you got them, if you got the luck, 100% go for it. But if you don't have the dupes, they're not going to function as carries, unfortunately. Okay, some other honorable mentions that I'm not going to go too deep are on. One is Wang. Wang definitely solid. The bird I've actually seen some incredible things from as well. But when I borrow a bird, he's completely trash, like doesn't even hit any damage. I don't know if it's a bug in borrowing him, but you know, another option definitely. I've seen some crazy things out of this dude. The problem with him is that the hardest enemy teams that you'll fight in campaign are generally the green teams, and if you got a blue carry, it just kind of makes that a bit frustrating when the green, which with like the Yuris and stuff, are the hardest ones. So being at a negative to those is a bit limiting. And then in the green options, obviously we have Sleepy, who can be really strong. And we also have Yuri, but Yuri's got to be played as not trying to tank. She's played as that back row DPS, but they're okay. But let's jump into my top 3 that I want to look at, starting with 3rd place. And 3rd place for me is going to be over here with Endorsi. Now, thing with Endorsi is she is great for campaign. Now, you can use 1 copy of Endorsi to cheese and group the whole enemy team up, but in general, she is a good campaign pusher, and with those dupes, she gets the extra evasion, and she's an AoE cleaver. She can group the enemy team up, and she can cleave. Now, sometimes she will insta-die, because if you're 1 unit grouping the whole enemy team up, and you have 5 attacking you at the very start, you do get insta-nuked, but she does have the cheat death as well. But in general, I have seen a lot of players pushing above a 3x deficit with Endorsi as their main carry. The one problem with Endorsi becomes when we look at boss fights, which isn't as important as campaign pushing at this stage of the game, but it's still something else to consider, is that she just doesn't have the damage in boss fights. So if you go with an Endorsi carry, yes, you're going to have a solid campaign team, and honestly, the dark team or the purple team is amazing for campaign. When you look at things like Rachel, you look at Kun, you look at what's her face, I always forget her name, Naray, like you look at those units, you've got an amazing purple team that you can build. However, the purple just doesn't perform in bosses as much, so that is the big fall off for the Endorsi, but definitely I think number 3 in my eyes. Moving on from that, we go into number 2, and I honestly think the number 2 option is going to be Hua. Now, I don't recommend doing her as your first carry because she is of one of the 3 elements, whereas with purple and with yellow, you can manipulate the numbers on your team to make sure that your carry is never weak to the enemy. However, the one caveat for that is Hua is red, and blue for me personally in campaign is like those enemies just aren't as tricky to deal with as like the green enemies. So Hua is fantastic because she can deal the most damage against the hardest enemies and the least damage against the easiest enemies. So she has that sort of balance. On top of that, it's not only that she deals damage, so she can carry with damage. She has shields. If you get her to level 10 exclusive equipment, she applies shields every time someone crits the target that she's locked onto. So you're going to get plenty of shields like that. Her ult is going to shield anyone in range, give them buffs. She's just got so many buffs for your team along with herself, and she can snowball super hard because once you get those dupes in her, and every time you kill the enemy that you're locked onto, when you're giving any ally attacking it 40% attack and 40% crit rate, and then when you kill them, you're getting 400 energy. She snowballs your team so hard. Yes, she is great at one copy as a supportive character, but once you dupe her up, she is a crazy unit for carrying. And mine has been working up until 16-24 where I'm at. My deficit is just too high at the moment. I'm just really struggling. You can see here we're at almost a 5x deficit. But even against some blue enemies, she was defeating enemies between 3 and 4x deficit with the blue enemies, and mine's only at purple 1 star. So she is an absolutely fantastic carry in my mind. And then we jump into the number 1 carry, and I don't think we can look past Hats. He is just incredible. Now, I wanted to touch quickly on Wang a bit because I know a lot of people love Wang. The reason I didn't put him in the top 3 is because I just think Hats is a firm number 1, and I don't think you want to build a second carry that is going to be the same element as your first carry. I think a bit of diversity in your carries is going to be a great way to play it. So I think Bird and also Wang get pushed down further because Hats exists. That's just my personal feel on it. And like I said, someone like Hua, the reason and the actual order, and we'll talk a bit more about Hats in a sec, but the order I would actually do it would be the way I have done it is Hats and then Hua, because Hua is fantastic in that if you build Hats and then you build another dedicated DPS unit, you're sort of like when you go to stages like, for instance, in the trial or in boss fights where you got to choose which DPS to bring. Yes, sometimes you can bring 2 DPS, but Hua works well as a support. So if you dupe her up, it's still increasing her supportive capabilities across the board, plus her capabilities as a carry, but then she's also buffing you in other aspects of the game. And that's the main play I would go with. But Hats, the reason he is the top carry, he works so well, especially with his crits. So a big thing with all these guys, especially melee units, you want to get their friendship up. You want to get that evasion and accuracy, because those are the two most important stats, evasion and accuracy. And getting that up is really important. And obviously gearing them up is also going to be incredibly important for it. But the thing with Hats is he has a lot of avoidance, and you can see here I'm working mine to get him to 20 exclusive equipment, because then he's going to start blocking projectile attacks, which is going to further help his survivability. But the other thing that Hats has on top of that is he can dodge a lot, he can avoid a lot of damage, but then he can also heal himself along the way. And so when you're healing yourself, it means you can then use that RNG of dodging, and it can last a lot longer. So he can operate as a DPS/tank, and he just functions so well. His damage output may not be the highest in the game, but because he has all that stuff tied into his kit with like avoidance of damage, it just makes him absolutely fantastic. And also the other thing is, because when he uses the flying swords, his basic attack becomes like a massive shredding as well. So he's got big bursts through his ultimate, but he also just melts things, especially weak enemies, with his basic attacks after he uses this, whilst also having that avoidance. So I think he's definitely going to be number 1. Like I said, Hua to me is number 2, and Dorsey number 3, but she falls off outside of campaign, especially. And like I said, there's a bunch of honorable mentions, but those SSR pluses, if you do have one of them, especially Kel or one of of the Mashnies at 3-star, 3 green. It is huge because it means you don't need that second SSR unit built up as fast, and it gives you that lenience in, especially for free to play, your building options. But that is going to be for this one. Let me know what you guys think. Everyone's got a different opinion. Everything is obviously biased. That's just my thoughts around it. Let me know yours. As always, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.